All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kevin Buettner. I'm the Transportation Director at the Ohio Mid-Eastern Government Association. We're the regional transportation planning organization that covers uh, 8 counties in eastern Ohio. Um, this meeting is for our regional transportation improvement plan for the years 2024 through 2027. We welcome you to the live stream. If you do have questions throughout this, please put them into the comment section and we'll have them read off throughout the presentation. Quick overview of what we'll be going through is a brief overlook at Omega and why we're here today for this meeting. A little bit of background about the current regional transportation improvement plan, and then we'll open it up for comments and a question and answer towards the end. So who are we? We wear many hats in this area, but we are a local development district, a council of governments that covers 10 counties and 12 city governments. And you'll notice on this map that 2 of the counties, Jefferson and Belmont, are shaded in gray. We cover them for community development, but we do not cover them for transportation because I have another organization that handles that. Some of the services that we do provide, again, are to help provide planning assistance to local governments, villages, cities, townships, and counties. Provide funding and administrative services. So we not only do we plan the projects, we also chase after funding to get them implemented. Administer many different programs. But the last one today is the main reason we're here, and that is because we're the regional transportation planning organization that works with ODOT and with local governments to get our transportation system enhanced. Some of the services that we do provide are short-range plans, active transportation planning, school travel plans. We look at regional safety as well, and we participate in statewide planning so that we have a finger on the pulse of what's going on statewide and can steer some of those efforts to benefit our region. We do also have the regional transportation plan, which is our long-range plan, looks 25 years in the future. We have a regional transportation improvement plan, which is the one we're talking about today, that starts July 1st of this year and goes on until 27, and various other corridor and safety plans that we do. And we do all this planning so that we can justify the funding that we need to get these improvements done. So it's a never-ending process. Our current goals that we set with help from our community partners is to preserve regional assets and to support our local economies. And you'll see a lot of that later today when we're talking about some of the projects. Increasing the safety of regional infrastructure, facilitate economic and community development, and to develop and maintain regional resiliency. So what is the RTIP? And you may see the RTIP and you may see the STIP. They are not quite interchangeable, but they do work together. But the Statewide Transportation Improvement Plan, or the STIP, is Ohio's 4-year transportation plan document that serves 2 main purposes. One, it presents a transportation program for Ohio that includes both federally and state-funded projects scheduled within the upcoming 4-year period. And second, it serves as a reference document required by both the Federal Highway Administration and the Federal Transit Administration for use in approving federal funds for transportation projects in Ohio. So essentially, this is us telling the federal government how we plan on spending the funds that they gave us for some of these projects. So we work in collaboration with the Ohio Department of Transportation, metropolitan planning organizations that are on our east side, Bellamar in the Wheeling area, and BHJ, which covers Weirton and Steubenville. We're a rural transportation planning organization. We cover the areas outside of the more metropolitan areas, and then we also work with all our local officials and the general public. So like I mentioned, the plan today that we're discussing covers the state fiscal years 2024 through 2027. That actually starts July 1st of this year and goes until June 30th of 2027. We'll be talking about some ODOT program project maps that are listed on our website. We do have all these maps both in static and interactive form, and we'll bring those up shortly. And this will also be an opportunity to comment on ODOT and other program projects that are contained within the plan. So it's a very iterative process. It starts beginning of the fall of the year prior. So We started this early in 2022. We did a draft that was due to ODOT in February for their initial comment and review. They gave us some feedback. We adjusted it. And now we're in the public involvement period. We will turn it into the state by May 1st, and then the state will put it together with all the other regions in the state and turn it into the federal government for final approval. So, an overview of how much money is being spent over the next 4 years in our 8 county region. We wanted to break it down to show the total investment. So, over $334 million of federal money is being spent on all of these projects throughout the next 4 years. The state has contributed $133.4 million. Local governments, such as cities and villages and counties, have contributed almost another 12. There's a labor category that's just shy of $20 million. And then the RTPO has a capital allocation where we are able to contribute to certain projects, different phases of projects to get them over the finish line where there's that missing piece of funding. And so we're able to contribute over the next 4 years over $2.5 million, whether that is for pre-construction activities or for construction. It will depend case by case on the project. So we wanted to break it down by county, each of our 8 counties that we have. And you'll see that some counties have higher totals than others. Tuscarawas, for instance, is our highest with $85.8 million. And our lowest is Coshocton with $15.5 million. This really depends on what projects are happening in the current cycle. Counties with 4-lane highways and with the interstate, such as Muskingum, Guernsey, and Tuscarawas, are often going to have higher totals because it costs more to maintain a freeway than it does a normal 2-lane rural road. This is a snapshot for this current plan. In a couple years, when we have the next 4-year cycle, these numbers will obviously change, and it will depend on how many bridges, what kind of projects are happening, and what other funding has been brought to bear in form of grants or governmental loans. So the investment overall in the Omega region, we wanted to break down roughly the total percentage. And in this case, you can see that most counties have a decent share. I apologize that the totals change from percentages to dollar signs, but the proportion stays the same. The big winners in this cycle are Tuscarawas, Columbiana, and Harrison, along with Guernsey. Again, that's just based on the type of projects that they have going on. We wanted to break down where this money is coming from, what different types of funding pots are out there. It's easy for us to say federal funds, but there are a lot of different ways that shows up. Funneling a lot through ODOT, but other programs as well. So we do have local programs, and those could be things such as transportation alternatives, Safe Routes to School, and other grant programs that we often help the communities pursue and get so they can get their projects over the finish line. There's also major programs, which could be Major Bridge or various other programs that ODOT has designated within their budget. And those are generally large-scale projects, the complete redoing of maybe a 4-lane intersection, or potentially like what's ongoing with the Zanesville project on I-70. That would be considered a major program. There's also and you'll see a majority of the funding falls under preservation, and that really is not only ODOT's bread and butter, but also throughout many of the local governments. We want to maintain what we already have. We don't necessarily need to be building a lot of new infrastructure. Where it makes sense, we certainly should, but in other areas, we should be concerned with making sure what we do have is safe and makes for efficient transportation of goods and people throughout the region. And you also see safety on there as well. It's only forecast out for a couple of years. Safety is a high component with ODOT and with all of our regional partners. ODOT has one of the largest safety programs in the entire nation, and bringing some of those safety funds back to here to help some of our bad intersections or bad stretches of road we want to make sure that that is brought back as much as we can. So we work with our local partners to chase after the safety funding. We also have state, local labor, and the RTPO funding, as I mentioned from the other slide. And that generally is used either as a local match for grants or as their contribution. Oftentimes it is a 80-20 split. So 80% comes from the federal and 20% has to come from non-federal sources. So that's either the state or local governments contributing that funding. And throughout a region, we also do have public transit, and they do pursue transportation funding. Um, the FTA has three main buckets that we go after. 5310, which is an FTA fund, is for people with lower incomes, people with disabilities, and senior citizens. That does not necessarily have to be a public agency that goes after it. It could be a private agency that uses that money to fund transportation activities. 5311 is our rural public transit, so that's what most of the transit agencies in our region use. And 5339 is for bus maintenance and for the garages and such. Um, so, per the last transportation bill, we are forecast to have a pretty flat allocation throughout. This is how much is available, but each entity will go after their funding separately with a grant application. So these numbers are not exactly what's coming into the region, but it's our projection based on prior years. Another thing we want to do is we want to look at all of these projects and we want to see how are they going to impact the region. So what uh, using the federal government guidelines, we look for the environmental justice focus areas, and that is defined as either having an income level of under 50,000 or a minority population which is over 7.2, almost 7.3%. Those are regional averages, so they're only tailored to our 10 counties, and then we take out Belmont and Jefferson. Um, and if you fall either below them or you fall over, we consider that to be an area that we really want to look to make sure that there are no adverse impacts to our projects. The good news is most of these projects are enhancements. They are going to make things safer. They're going to reduce potholes. They're going to make things quieter. You know, rough pavement makes truck tires a little bit louder, so smoother pavement will often quiet that down a little bit. And we're not really adding capacity. We're not adding a lot of lanes. We're not adding a lot of new bridges or anything. So the impacts of the communities are generally a net positive. There is some noise pollution during the actual construction, but that's very temporary, likely only a couple weeks, maybe a month. Um, the road closures are kind of a hindrance, but overall, once the project's done, it's going to make the region better and safer. So I'll show a series of maps. These are all available on our website where you can download them and look a little bit more in detail for areas that have projects. But across all of them, we broke them down and color coded them by year. The dots on the map refer to bridges or culverts, and those positions are a little bit more discrete. That's of just one certain location, or sometimes a series of locations if it's multiple culverts on the same road. Um, Whereas the segments, the longer line segments, are either there are different types of projects. They could either be a minor rehab, which is just the tar stripes that go on to seal the pavement to make it last a few more years. It could be a general, what we call a mill and fill, where they'll grind down about 2 inches and put the pavement right back on top of it, but much smoother. And then there's major rehabilitation where often the road is completely shut down and the entire road is pretty much removed and re-put back together. That doesn't happen as often because ODOT does keep the pavements in really good condition, but occasionally, due to weather, due to age, if the land has shifted a little bit over time, it's best to just completely take it all the way down to the dirt and try again. So each county that we have, we did put on municipalities, which you'll see are the green spots. Everything else are the projects by year. Like I said, all of these are on our website, and at the end, I will be able to get a interactive map up, and that has a little bit more detail so that we can refer. These 5 and 6 digit numbers that you see refer to the project ID number, and those correspond to projects. If you look in the appendix of our larger plan, you can get a lot more detail of what is actually happening, whether it's that simple repaving, if it's a guardrail replacement, or what the actual project ultimately is. So you see throughout the region, a lot of the state routes are getting some sort of attention. There are some projects off of the state routes. Often those are bridges owned by the county engineer or a township, or if they pursued some sort of grant, have state and federal funding involved for some of those improvements, you'll notice they may fall off the statewide system. And at this link is our overall project. The whole plan has all the maps. It has the interactive map, and we'll also have any updates that happen over the next couple of years. So this plan is pretty well set as it is now, and it will be updated quarterly as needed if projects change for any reason. Sometimes funding is made available sooner. Projects can move up a little bit, or they could get pushed back so they can merge up with other projects. It just depends on what the situation is, both in the village or the community, and with ODOT's schedule. This QR code will take you to the same place. We wanted to make sure we had a couple different ways. So if you have a smartphone, using this QR code will take you right to our website, which will show you all the different things. Before I take it over to the website, which may take us a moment for the transition, all comments are due by April 30th so that we can incorporate them into our document, respond to them, and get this over to ODOT in time. But we will encourage you to continue the feedback. So if there's anything that happens even after this April 30th date, feel free to reach out to us, and we will either be able to answer your questions, or we'll put you in touch with somebody who is able to answer the questions so that we can make sure that any concerns are taken care of. Is it possible to bring up the website? Okay. But with that, are there any questions? I kind of sprung this on our tech crew a little late. So we don't have the interactive map available right now. We do have that available on our website. So I will go back to the link. And this is a screenshot of what it looks like. Again, it's very much like the static maps that we had. So you'll be able to click on any of those dots or any of those line segments, and it will pull up the project. It'll give you the year that they're going to construction, how much money is being spent on the entire project, and a general description. So it may say minor rehab, major rehab, bridge, preservation, many things like that. If you do have questions on a certain project, do feel free to reach out to us. You can message us on Facebook, you can send us an email, or give us a call, and we will dig a little deeper into any of these.
Kevin, we do have one question on the chat. It says, can any of these projects' budgets be leveraged with the 500 million? I believe she's referring to the ACG.
Okay. So we had a question if any of these projects could be leveraged with the $500 million, which we assume is the Appalachian Community Grant. There is some potential. I cannot say yes or no. That 500 million has to be spent within fairly short order, I believe, by the end of 26. So some of them, especially if it's more of a streetscape or something like that, potentially if there's another project in that community, you could marry up some of that funding, but I would encourage the local officials to reach out to their local ODOT district to let them know what their plans are, because sometimes that's what could either delay a project purposefully so you can marry that up all at the same time, or they'll let you know either way. But I cannot say for certain. That's more of a case-by-case basis. All right. But if you do have questions, even after the live stream is over, like I said, please leave a comment. We will respond to all the comments through the end of the month, and we look forward to having discussions with you. And we thank you for attending today.